Why hello there, and welcome to another pre-3.22 Path of Exile video. So, this is the character, level 86. The Crucible Solo Self-Found League has fully migrated, so unfortunately, I can't progress this character anymore without basically being in like my actual SSF tabs. So because of that, I will be putting this character on pause. However, I did do the first mini bosses for Eater and Exarch, and that went very, very well. I would say on par with the same speed as a Detonate Dead Elementalist, for me at least. So the gear wasn't anything at all spectacular. This was, I believe, alt crafted and regold. Everything else was pretty much either alt crafted, regold. This was straight up from the vendor. It came with the max life and chaos res in the post-campaign zone, whatever that thing is called, and I regold it and slapped it into the build. So all the gear has been very easy to obtain. This was an essenced mod, I think. And then shield was just literally I found it on the ground and I equipped it. Boots, found it on the ground and I equipped it. Item level 41, 67, 72. All the gear is pretty bad. So that's the character. Oh, well, I suppose you would want the main damage links at the very least. We got Creeping Frost, Cruelty, Elemental Focus, Controlled Destruction, and Vortex. And then Cold Snap is linked to Controlled Destruction, Bone Chill, and Hypothermia. Unfortunately, never got the Essence for Gloves, never got a Rhyme Gaze, else the Cold Snap would go into either one of those two options. The shield, I just have shield charge, faster attacks. I have grace, efficacy, clarity. I am not using the Vol Grace whatsoever since I don't really think it does too much for the build currently. However, the nearby allies have plus 15% chance to evade attack hits is nice when it is active. The spell suppress is not really doing me any justice right now, as I only have these spell suppress wheels, and then while on full life at least I have the spell suppress coming from Revenge of the Hunted, so I only have 40% spell suppress chance, so it's not really doing me any good. I could get 50%, and then with the lucky modifier from here, that would basically be around like 75% spell suppress, which wouldn't be too bad, but I would have to use a phasing flask. I do sometimes have to use the mana flask. Since I had very little currency, I was just plug and play most maps. I only rerolled off of like no regen a few times. That's just because the other mods are also very rippy. So yeah, builds together pretty easy, obtainable. I didn't have any cast when damage taken link. If I were to change anything about the build, it would probably be getting a cast when damage taken and underneath like level 1 cast when damage taken, a mortal call setup, and I think that would suffice for this build specifically because of the evasion, and then just needing that damage reduction when Dancer has procced recently is more important. So the idea is you take 20% less damage taken for the first initial hit, and then the Immortal Call would proc for any small subsequent hits. So it really would suck only in the scenario of getting hit by like a basic attack by Shaper, triggering Wind Dancer, and then getting hit by the Shaper Slam. Like that's pretty much like the worst case scenario is the slam would get amplified by the Wind Dancer and then one-shotting you. But ideally, with the case of having like a low-level cast when damage taken plus a Mortal Coil setup, you would negate most of the attack damage scaling effect, and then getting the Lightning Coil on top with a Wind Dancer is very, very, very good for mitigating damage. And then getting as much elemental taken as elsewhere in the build would also be good. So I am missing several life nodes. I'm missing around 10% life here. I could get 10% life here. There's 8%, well, 9%. I didn't even know that was a 5% life there. They probably changed that when they reworked this whole area. I just never noticed. And then there is another 22% life here, so there's a lot of life that I can still get into the build, and as you can see, like, there's literally crafted life rolls on some of these gear pieces. This doesn't even have life on it, and yeah, so the life can definitely go up a lot higher. Ideally aim for getting your chaos res capped. I really hope that there is like a chaos res int transfer. That would be really, really nice for tattooing. If you could tattoo, for example, like 50% of your int as, so you do get quite a bit of int. If you could tattoo, let's say, just like 100 of this as chaos res, that would be really, really nice. So that's the build. The in hideout tooltip dot is 37k on Cold Snap, 41k on Vortex, and 39k on Creeping Frost. While mapping, what I ended up doing was this kind of a setup where Vortex underneath you and then Cold Snap off to the side. Because of the Cold Snap having the expansion to the AoE, I felt more comfortable using that at ranged instead of using the Creeping Frost, because it, number one, would hit any mob along the path. So maybe in the endgame PoP setup, just for clearing, I may swap the Cold Snap to be with Creeping Frost for the single target, and then put Vortex in the 4-link, so that way anything that's standing on top of me will be chilled, but anything far away, I can have the higher damaged, easily accessible skill on a right click to use when I need to actually put damage in that specific area. As for the mana, I could actually sneak in the Defiant Spanner, but I wanted to see how far I could get without it, and so far cleared up to T14. That is the highest tier map I've completed with this build. No problem at all, and there are absolutely zero changes for this build in 3.22, so I feel very confident and comfortable in recommending this build. The mods on the ring that I would advise people to get is get some of this recoup, and then get maybe a reduced mana cost as well, because the mana cost between the Cold Snap, the Vortex, and your Creeping Frost, it adds up. So while you're mapping, you can, if you don't have, if you run like a no regen, even this mana flask that I literally just picked up off the ground wasn't doing enough in some scenarios. However, when you are clearing maps, it feels more than enough because of being a trickster. I do not have Spellbreaker, so with Spellbreaker, the build can get 60% spell suppression just by this pathing while on full life. So I may play around with the Mastery, for example, the plus 15. So the plus 15 would then make it 65% while not on full life and 75% while on full life. And then with the Lucky, that should be very, very, very comfortable. And with the 65%, you could get a series steps and then maybe like one other gear piece or a phasing flask to kind of plug the rest of your spell suppression. Unless I'm doing this head math completely wrong. So yeah, that's basically it for this video. I don't want it to take too long, but I'll see you in the next video. And the next video is going to be more related to league start and all that. So I hope to see you then. Peace.